far the system includes 3 approaches to musicality, and that's your Bronx, your Brooklyn, and your Latin approach. What if, or do you think it's possible there are any other approaches you might have skipped or neglected?
Well, if there is another one, another way to approach the music besides flowing with the music, becoming the music, or being funky with the music, then I just like to know what that is.
Okay, so you're really convinced that it considers different approaches to music.
Yes, I'm convinced that like the major, most vital approaches, like being funky, having flow, or being really musical, those are the 3 different ways that make a good dancer, right? The Bronx style was first started by the African Americans, and what was a good dancer to them, in their perspective, was someone who was funky, because James Brown was the one who, you know, with his funk music and whatever, is the one that inspired that style. So the Bronx style is about being funky with their step styles, just being sporadic and letting loose, you know what I mean? That's what they think good breaking is. But the Brooklyn, right, their mentality is like, the way Brooklyn people were like, you know, a lot of Italian descendant kind of people, and they were really like animated with the way they talk and very sharp and confident. So when the way they thought was good dancing is to be really aggressive and musical, and you know, and that's the whole rocking thing, right? The whole rocking perspective. Actually, the Brooklyn way of breaking actually was just a short phase, because the Bronx style was just, when they hit the floor, they just went off, and right? But recently, people have got back into rocking, and they put a lot of emphasis into musicality, which is the original Brooklyn perspective, right? All about musicality. The Latin perspective is when the Latinos started coming into breaking. Their perspective was about, you know, that salsa, suave, and finesse. So when they saw like sporadic funkiness, they weren't like, oh, that's good dancing. They thought good dancing is smooth and flowing with finesse. Yeah, the flow. So that's why these are 3 different perspectives of dancing to the music, which are equal to each other. You can't say one is better than the other. That's subjective to say, you know, that's based on your opinion which one you like. But they all should be equal to one another, right? If I want to dance funky or flowy or complete musicality or whatever, that should be like, that's my choice, right? And I don't think there's any other way, unless it's like elegance. But I can't see how elegance goes with that attitude, you know what I mean? Like, or whacking, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no other way. I don't think there's any other way.
Are there any other dancing styles which are using any similar judging systems, or any judging systems in general?
Well, I mean, besides ballroom dancing and like, you know, like stuff like that, like, you know, in street dancing, no, I think this is pretty much the first one, right? In terms of the street dance, right? However, beatboxing used it for the first time, the hour system, and it went great for them.
Tell us more about how it went for them.
Well, what happened is just like every head-to-head type of hip-hop or, you know, culture battle, they have the same thing, like who's like, with them they have their own foundation, who makes the music beats, who actually makes music through beatboxing. They have who's more original, who has a better style. They have who has the harder tricks, the crazier moves and blow-ups with their lips and whatever. Then they got the guys who are like very clean and well executed and everything is perfect. And then they have guys who are good at all the styles and they just know how to battle that. If you do a certain trick, they can take the trick and they can respond with that trick. Or if you do a certain song, they know how to respond with another song. They know how to battle. So one of the top 5 beatboxers in the world is a good friend of mine, and he's come to R16 and he saw how it works and he said, yo, this system would work for beatboxing. And so he used it at one of his jams and bam, everyone loved it. So right now they're putting together like, you know, a committee, just like what we're doing with breaking, they're trying to do that with beatboxing.
And so far, which of the OGs or who is supporting the system?
Okay, so this is gonna be the hard part because, you know, like to know exactly where they stand, some say they do support it, but others say, oh, he doesn't really support it, and I don't know, but I'm gonna say the ones that
have some people who are kind of 50-50.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say the ones that co-sign it, first of all, okay? The people who co-sign it, that have said, yes, 100% I co-sign this, is Storm, Easy Rock, Alien S, Track 2. Those are the 4 major OGs at this point. Let's say they're with it, right? They're with it, 100%, they co-sign it. I have other people who also support it, right? and people who have helped in the past. So people like Crazy Legs, Ken Sift has been a huge inspiration into making this. Supporters, Break Easy, supporting, Thrilla, Dynamic Rockers, like Original Glide. Yeah, a lot of the OGs, they pretty much, there isn't one of the OGs that have come up to me and said, I don't support this, right? That I'm against this.
But do some of them have doubts about it though?
I'm pretty sure there's always gonna be doubts about it, right? Like, and until like you really have time to explain and say, okay, this is what we're trying to do or whatever. But since I've shown it to them in the beginning 2009, before I came to Korea to implement it, I went to New York and I showed everybody the plan, what I'm trying to do and what I'm gonna try to do in Korea, and everyone gave me their blessing, right? That included like Crazy Legs, like, you know, Fresh Style Rockers, Dynamic Rockers. Yeah.
Okay, so Dyzee, you were saying around 2009, most of the OGs and the legends, they gave you their support for the system, right? What were you doing mainly between the early 2000s and 2009?
Well, that's when, okay, 2001 to 2004 was like my super Dyzee highlight career. That's when I was killing it. Like, I was battling a lot, traveling.
So you didn't have that much time to
I mean,
focus.
when I was home, I was still organizing the jam, but I never took it that serious. You know what I mean? I wasn't like, okay, like I use a system, you know what I mean? And I said, okay, this is a good way to judge. And people were interested in it back in the day, and they were like, you know, but I was never like, okay, I gotta make the b-boy world better. I never thought like that. You know, I was just thinking, okay, we need a system, it makes sense, but it wasn't like my passion until, you know, probably like 2006, right? Then when I realized, hey, my dream is that breaking is gonna become a huge thing in the world, and we can, you know, then I said, okay, that's gonna involve some type of system or something like that in the future. Could it be mine? I don't know. Maybe I need to try because no one's doing anything, nothing's getting better.
So would you say that's your main priority relating to breaking right now?
Yeah, my main priority is that breaking grows bigger all over the world and that people have opportunities to make a living and, you know, do something with breaking. You know, we've all been through the same crap, like, what are you doing with your life? Well, why are you doing that? That's not gonna lead to nowhere. That's nothing. What are you just rolling around on the floor for? Like, we all went through, a lot of us pretty much went through that. Like, we know what that's like. You know what I mean? And, you know, I wanna like fix that, you know? And even going to like third world countries and seeing like b-boys in places where you never thought you'd see them, you know? And, you know, they really don't have anything. Like, they really don't have anything, like literally, like, but all they have is breaking, you know? And I think that like breaking can save a lot of people, you know? It saved me. I mean, like, that's a natural cliche story, you know, I was a punk, you know, and breaking helped me take out my aggression. And I think that that b-boying needs to reach those people that don't have anything, that don't have the options, that just don't care about life. You know what I mean? And it's the kind of thing that could save them, you know? So got some ill b-boys in the Philippines.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Okay, now Dyzee, a question a lot of people have been asking about R16 2012. Why did Lil John give only ones to Morning of Our Crew? Like, what did they do?
Okay.
Or what didn't they do?
Okay. First, I'll explain the situation that the problem was that through certain circumstances, right? Like Lil John he judged R16 Taiwan, and I was unable to go through the standards with him, right? It was like too last minute and there's all these things and I wasn't able to go through it with him. So he was judging based on his opinion of foundation, okay? Now the thing is, in Taiwan, they're all about foundation. Like, foundation has been indoctrinated into Taiwanese b-boys to the highest degree. So all of them had good foundation. So when he was judging correctly because they didn't have any guys who were like outside of the box kind of style, you know what I mean? So what happened is he got him to judge R16 Korea again, and I didn't realize, it slipped my mind that I didn't train him in the actual standards. And when he started to judge, he was judging giving ones and he was giving those out. And it's not.
Do you think even though the scores were low, it still worked well with the system?
Yes,
or?
It still works because what happens is he's consistent. As long as he's consistent, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as long as he's not being straight up biased, like, oh, I don't like this guy at all because of his, you know, he does, you know, like, I'm just gonna, you know, it wasn't even like that. It was just, It was like, okay, he looked at foundation as footwork, dancing to the music, freestyling, right? With a b-boy attitude. And so he looked at that as, that's what foundation is, which is correct. It is foundation. And then he looked at people who didn't do that at all, you know what I mean, as having absolutely no foundation. So yeah, he gave a little bit really low.
Would you say he set the standards a bit too high? Or he was expecting something that was impossible?
No, it wasn't that he was expecting something impossible. He was just, like, another thing about it is that, because on the actual iTouch, it says perfect, good, average, poor, none. It doesn't say 1 point, 2 point, 3 point, 4 point, 5 points. It doesn't say that. It only says perfect, good, average, poor, none.
So he was pretty much giving everyone...
He was giving certain people a none, because he felt that it's more respectable to give somebody a none than to say what they did is poor. Because he felt that, oh, if he says that he didn't even do it, it's better to give him none, right? But he didn't realize that these things equaled points, right? He didn't realize that.
An interesting question. If you know a judge is making a mistake or he did something wrong, what can you do or what will you do?
At this scale, that's why we need an association, right? An association to govern the system. It's not just the system on its own with standards. There needs to be an association that governs the system, certifies judges, and all that kind of stuff. We need that to happen in order for us to be able to do something about it. Because right now, if there's a judge that's being biased, and we all know he's being biased, and he's choosing against someone because everyone knows he doesn't like that person, what can you do right now? He can just hide behind, oh, yeah, just my opinion. He didn't want it. He wasn't hungry. You know what I mean? Like, you could say anything. Or I've seen him do better. Like, you could say anything, right? So there's nothing you can do, period, right? But through this, we're able to look at what the score is. We're able to look at the standards, and then the whole community, because of the transparency, can say, hey, he was judging perfectly until it came to this person he didn't like, and then he gave him these kind of scores. And we as a community can find out who is biased and who's not. Through our system, we're able to actually find out who are good judges one day. And one day we're gonna have like a list of all the good judges in each of the perspectives, right? And that's exactly what I think we need, right?
Yeah. For now, we're still gonna come across some rather weak judges or some
it's possible.
Problematic judges and so on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
so you think even despite that, it's still worth it to keep pushing the system?
Yeah.
And someday it'll reach its goal.
Yeah, not everyone is a good judge, it's true, right? And who knows, perhaps after the standards get to such a certain level, perhaps in the future, I won't even be good enough to judge these standards because of my ADD. That's possible, but at that point in time, bboying will be so big that there'll be a place for all of us, whether it be coaching, commentating, business, and all aspects of breaking in this in a professional battling industry.
Cool. Another issue, a lot of b-boys were asking, why does the system only go from 1 point to 5 points? Doesn't that limit everything too much?
Well, I'm glad you were asking that, okay? Okay, no, the reason why it's only between 1 to 5 is because before I came across this dilemma. I was thinking, should I make it higher or should I make it lower? And the reason why I didn't make it up to 7 or 10 is because I didn't want to give an opportunity for a judge to be biased, right? To add, because for example, okay, if it's up to 10, let's just say when someone throws down and he deserves a 6. A judge can say, okay, if he likes him and he wants to be biased, he can give him a 7.
So pretty much the higher the number goes,
the more leeway to throw in an extra point or two. But if the numbers are small, 1 to 5, you know, it's easier to say, hey, why did you give this and why give that, right? Because the range is small. It's becomes more black and white, right? You know?
So you don't think it's too constricting or too...
No, because you need to clearly beat somebody, period, right? Like if you're gonna beat someone in certain things, you should clearly beat them by by a reasonable margin, like not in terms of points, but it has to be, you have to clearly beat them, right? And you know.
So you don't think it's a problem if you end up having a lot of tied battles?
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing is, through our system, I think that it's hard to get tied battles because the winner goes to in case of tied categories, it goes to total score, right? And if that's tied, then it's a real tie, not like judges just going, I don't know, and then, oh, tiebreaker, and then everyone's like, oh, another tiebreaker. Make up your damn minds. At least this one, we can explain why it's a tie. Because this guy won foundation and originality, the other guy had better battling and dynamics, execution was tied, and then the total points overall were tied. It's a real tie. That's a real tie, not undecided.
Does the system favor long sets or short, straight to the point sets?
As a matter of fact, it does not favor either one of them. The system is designed to be fair for both. You do a long set, you're putting more, right? But you have more chance to mess up. The system judges you based on the quality of what you're doing, right? Longer sets shouldn't mean that it's better. Like, it shouldn't mean that, like, you know what I mean? And this system finds a balance between both, between short sets and long sets. It finds a good balance, right? Because it just judges on the quality of it. You do a long set with, you squeeze in everything, but everything is not that good. You squeeze it in just for the sake of doing it because you want to score all around. Doesn't mean you're gonna win.
So it doesn't mean you're gonna score good.
Doesn't mean you're gonna score good. You're gonna exactly. So this will take away from the people who are just trying to hit everything.
So you were saying the system doesn't necessarily favor long sets over short sets, but
Or vice versa.
Or vice versa, right? But isn't it with the hour system, originality is judged on quantity?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't that kind of push b-boys towards fitting more original moves?
Yes, I guess so. Right?
Wouldn't
Well,
that kind of end up favoring
well, yeah, if you want to do, well, that would, but then in terms of response, right? You want to do a short set and execution, right? So foundation originality, yes, right? You might try to take a longer set to get your point across, but in terms of execution and battle, you might want to make it a short set. So there's a balance, right?
If you could say in one sentence, or if you could mention one thing that the b-boy community needs the most right now, what would it be? Just one thing.
Unity.
Unity.
Unity. Come together, unite.
Okay, so this was a session asking b-boy Dyzee some serious questions about the R system and about breaking in general. And we hope you've gained some knowledge and you've learned something, because we over here definitely learned something. Peace!
Okay. But I'm probably one of the people that started the long sets in the 2000s. I started doing like long ass sets and killing it with long sets, and everyone's like, now everyone does long sets. I messed up b-boying! I'm trying to fix it. I'm trying to fix it with the R system.